Don't wanna know you, my Carney man. Don't wanna hear your globalist scam. Don't want you to own me. Go fuck yourself, man. Deep in the machine, don't wanna see you. George Soros spawn, don't wanna breed a one world con. Don't want your chains on. We're already gone. Deep in the machine. Bash them down, smash the kingdom down, trash the reset, burn the whole damn town. Liberal hacks and the whole globalist regime. Fuck you all in your new world order dream. You can't tax me with your carbon chains. You can't mask me while you bleed our veins. You can't flood us with your border games. You can't melt our nations down in flames. Can you hear us from your double saws? While you plot your great reset hours, you can't drag us to your one world hell. When we're ringing freedom's final bell, the spirit of liberty will burn their eyes with a righteous flame. Let their sick empire spin away in shame. Let it burn, you libtards and elites will do the same. All depends on we the people game. Don't wanna know you, Trudeau sorry crew. Don't wanna hear the lies you spew. Don't want your boots on. We're coming for you. Deep in the machine, don't wanna see you Ottawa and DC. Vampire elite, don't wanna breathe your endless deceit. Don't want your control. Watch us delete your whole rotten regime. Pass them down, smash the kingdom down, trash the reset, watch your empire drown. Andy Lee on the real Andy Lee show. Rebel news, dropping hammers, blow by blow. Can you stop a Kate Taylor, Zero Dark Kitty roar? Can you silence Charlie LeDuff and the VNA Freedom War? Can you break these warriors standing tall? Can you crush Canadian truth when we refuse to fall? Pushing globalist stars, we're dragging your asses straight behind bars. We're burning their lies to make you all battle ashamed and doing all that there with freedom's slave. Let that new world order die in shame. Bash down, smash the kingdom down. I like put my foot up their ass and bury them 50,000 feet down. Andy Lee, Revolute, Charlie LeDuff, Kate Taylor Flame, Martin Le Pen and Donald J. Trump, drain the swamp and their game. Let it burn.
What gives the king divine right to rule? His pure bloodline? By that measure, should not this dog be king?
He's got a point.
Canada's real cool. They speak French there. They use kilometers. And they got a cool dude named Vinny, a real OG.
In his group, he had the most
Hey everybody, VinnyD here. I've been busy and away for a bit, but I'm back now. And damn, it feels good to see you again. That song you just heard, Crush the New World Order hits hard for a reason. It's about exactly what exploded in Ottawa in 2022 and what's still choking this city today. I'm not really into hard rock like I was when I was younger, but Amy and I picked that track because a lot of you in the audience love artists like Tom MacDonald and Kid Rock. That raw, fuck what anyone thinks energy that actually says something. Right now, I'm standing on a side street in what's become a yuppie neighborhood in Ottawa. It used to be a poorer, lower rent district. Just a few yards from here is where our awesome investigative reporter and VNA Independent Guild member Andy Lee was born. Gracie Hospital, right across from the old church and one of Canada's first orphanages. Both the hospital and the orphanage are long gone now. And I'll be straight with you, not much has changed for the better in Ottawa, or on the rights and freedoms front. If anything, it's gotten worse. The mandates are gone, but the arrogance is louder than ever. Shut up, comply, and don't you dare push back. A lot of you don't know this, but I've been doing this since the summer of '67, the Detroit riots. Amy, Suzanne, and I are longtime members of the Independent Press Gallery of Canada, the accredited, internationally recognized press organization once headed by Candace Malcolm and now led by Sheila Gunn Reid at Rebel News. We're supposed to have real access, yet things are so broken here that one of our camera girls and I got physically tossed out of the National Press Building, literally manhandled and thrown out, just for asking for a press pass. That's the sorry state of press freedom in this country right now. And yeah, we had to send in an apprentice because our guy Chad completely fucked off on us. He swore up and down he'd march in there, apply for the pass, and get thrown out on camera while I filmed it. Classic LeDuff guerrilla journalism. Promised he was all in. Then, poof, radio silence. No call, no text, nothing. So big shout out to our camera girl and novice apprentice, Susan Lim. That's her with Tamara in the photo. She stepped up like a champ when Chad bailed with zero notice. Absolute legend. Now, some of you might be wondering why we're running a rebroadcast tonight. Truth is, we almost never do reruns. We pride ourselves on fresh fire every single show. But this one is different. This is my wife, Amy Suzanne's last full cast, and it's one of the most important messages we've ever put out. Amy is about to hold up a brutally honest national mirror to the Canadian psyche, a profoundly sharp, deeply educational reflection that every Canadian needs to see, not once, but at least twice. She diagnoses the invisible mental chains that keep even awakened Canadians folding when it matters most, and she lays out the bold escape route, a distinctly Canadian constitutional monarchical republic. That's exactly why we're re-airing it here on VNA and WDBG, because this is vital knowledge most Canadians have never heard and have certainly never truly thought about. It's the red pill, the mirror, the diagnosis, and the battle plan all in one. So stay with me for Amy's monologue, and when she's done, I'll be right back from our Ottawa studio with a full bombshell segment. I'm going to play my recent interview with Jeff Evely, longtime Nova Scotian activist and boots-on-the-ground voice who's been documenting this city's decline for years. We shot it right in the middle of what looks like a dystopian landscape, historic beauty mixed with filth, open drug use, and people decaying in the shadows of stunning architecture, just steps from luxury and power. After that, I'm tearing apart the recent Fox 2 Detroit Gordie Howe Bridge report with the mayor of Windsor. I'm going to dissect it, analyze it, and hand both of them fresh verbal assholes, because they're full of shit and I'll prove it. I'll also show how the exact same deep-rooted problems Amy is talking about are hard at work in Canadian state-funded legacy media's latest propaganda spin on the mouse virus, or Hantavirus, or whatever label they're fear-mongering and pushing this week. This isn't surface-level yapping. This is the deeper cause behind all the bad results you're seeing. And it's going to connect a lot of dots. The whole episode is educationally entertaining as hell and well worth staying tuned for, but I won't keep running my mouth. Without any further ado, here's my wife, our Amy Suzanne, with her powerful monologue, Breaking the Chains. Well, actually, before we slide into Amy's talk with you, I've got one more extremely important announcement and a bit of advice for you. Some kind-hearted soul thought they were helping by giving me one of these damn really foul and nasty Chinese commie cigarettes to try. These things must be a commie weapon, like some personal smoke screen or something. They're awful, and if smoked indoors makes so much smoke, they'd either choke or kill you and everyone else in the room. Please do not smoke these piece of shit things. All right, now that I've given you that last useful bit of info, here's Amy.
He had the most radical people. In his group, he had the most radical.
Signals in the cold. The mandates hit like winter storm. They froze the banks and killed the farm. The time has come to say fair is fair, to end the scams, to clear the air. The time has come to say fair is fair, to pay the price for all their shares. The time has come, a fact's a fact, they sold us out. Let's take it back. Thanks. The time has come to say fair is fair, to end the lies, to clear the air. The time has come, a fact's a fact, this nation's ours, let's take it back. How can we dance when our country's turning? How do we sleep while our freedom's burning? How can we dance when our country's turning? How do we sleep while our homes are The forest cut for net zero dreams, while billionaires pull all the strings. Inflation burns the family wage. They open borders, fill the stage. With every tax and every rule, they turn our pride into a tool. The time has come, the lines are drawn, the sleeping giant wakes at dawn. The time has come to say fair is fair, to break the chains, to breathe the air. The time has come, a fact's a fact, we built this land, let's take it back. How can we dance when our country's turning? How do we sleep while our freedom's burning? How can we dance when our country's turning? How do we sleep while our homes are burning? It belongs to us, not the globalist trust, not the devil's dust, not the Trudeau rust. Pay the price, end the vice, freedom's call, stand
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good evening, Canada and North America. I'm Amy Suzanne, Directress, Station Manager, and CEO of VNA Media Group, Voices of North America Media and Press Guild. I serve in those same roles and capacities for our flagship affiliate, WDBG-TV, the Metro Windsor Detroit Broadcast Group. In these roles, I rarely step to the microphone just to add another voice to the daily noise, because unlike the millions of self-glorifying, run-of-the-mill, click-seeking commentators out there, I refuse to be just another polished talker peddling comfortable outrage for likes, shares, and safe applause. You know exactly who they are. The endless parade of keyboard warriors and professional pearl clutchers who rage on cue, post their brave little memes, wring their hands on panels, then go right back to dinner and read their ratings while listening to the Dow Jones, all while the country slides further into chains. Yep, they sound fierce. But in reality, by just yapping away, they achieve nothing. They are the comfortable noise, loud enough to feel important, timid enough to stay irrelevant. I am not one of them, never have been, never will be. Today is different. Today calls for a deeper reckoning, an unflinching look at the invisible chains still holding far too many Canadians captive, even as their blood boils and their eyes are finally wide open. What you're about to hear is not another comfortable rant. It's a mirror, a challenge, and I hope a spark that ignites real change. Stay with me. Because if we face this truth together, the North just might finally break free. So without any further ado, let me tell you about my latest, which is entitled, Breaking the Chains, Why Even the Awakened Canadians Still Fold, and Why the American and French Republican Founding Fire Can Set the North Free. Good evening, Canada, and every free soul watching from across the border and beyond. Thank you for joining me tonight. For those of you who don't know, I'm Amy Suzanne, Directress, Station Manager, and CEO of VNA Media Group, Voices of North America Media and Press Guild, and I wear the same hats for our flagship affiliate, WDBG-TV, the Metro Windsor Detroit Broadcast Group. In these roles, I rarely step to the microphone just to add another voice to the noise, but today is different. Today demands a deeper reckoning, a clear-eyed look at the invisible chains that still hold too many of us back, even when our blood is boiling and our eyes are wide open. What you're about to hear is not another comfortable rant. It's a mirror, a challenge, and, I pray, a spark. Stay with me. Because if we finally face the truth in these words, the North just might break free. We saw it with our own eyes in Ottawa, 2022. Thousands of truckers and working Canadians rolled into the capital. They outnumbered the cops by 10, 15, sometimes 25 to 1. They shut down downtown. They held the streets. The police openly admitted they couldn't enforce their own rules. For weeks, the people had the physical advantage, raw numbers, sustained presence, moral fire over mandates and tyranny. Then the Emergencies Act dropped. Horses, tactical teams, frozen bank accounts, mass arrests. And what happened? The overwhelming majority folded. No hardened line, no equal force, no sustained resistance, just compliance, dispersal, and quiet defeat. Why? Because for generations, centuries really, Canadians have been psychologically engineered not to fight back, even when they're right, even when they outnumber the enforcers, even when their backs are against the wall. This isn't about lacking courage in the moment. It's about a deeper, invisible cage that remains locked inside the mind long after the body wants to break free. Call it the enchained Canadian psyche. It starts in the classroom. Decades of leftist-saturated education have drilled one central lesson into millions. The individual is secondary, the collective is sacred, and any assertive pushback is toxic, extreme, or un-Canadian. Rights aren't ironclad possessions to be defended with blood if necessary. They're polite privileges the state can reasonably limit whenever it decides the greater good demands it. Personal agency, self-reliance, forceful self-defense, those are treated as primitive relics, not virtues. The result is generations wired for deference, not defiance. But the classroom is only the latest layer. Beneath it sits something older and deeper, centuries of crown loyalty. God Save the King isn't a harmless anthem, it's psychological infrastructure. From Confederation onward, Canadian identity was built around deference to ordered authority, parliamentary restraint, and the comforting myth that the state is a benevolent extension of civilized British tradition. Challenging that authority with real force doesn't just feel illegal. It feels like treason against Canada itself. Then pour on the official anti-Americanism that has been pumped into the culture for just as long. The United States is painted as chaotic, violent, selfish, and crude. Canada, by contrast, is the just society, polite, tolerant, superior. Marxist and leftist liberal ideology complete the cocktail, class struggle narratives, suspicion of capitalism, and an ironclad taboo that says physical resistance against government is never acceptable. Talk revolution if you want, post angry memes, wave separation flags, but never ever cross into actual physical pushback, because then you'll be shunned, excluded from the herd, branded a radical, and cast out of polite Canadian society. This conditioning is so complete that it survives even in the Canadians who feel the injustice in their bones. You see the censorship, you see the press gatekeeping, you see the border tyranny and the Emergencies Act abuse. You rage against it. You call for freedom, for Western separation, for full secession. Yet the old software still runs in the background. Don't be violent. Don't physically resist. The American way is not as good as ours. Stay polite or be exiled from the tribe. That mental residue doesn't disappear when someone wakes up. It whispers, it pulls punches, it keeps even the most fired-up voices playing by the state's rules. That's why the convoy, despite all its power, ultimately folded. The bodies showed up. The minds were still chained. Now look south and across history to the American and French Republican founding fire. Here, Republican does not mean MAGA, Trump, or any partisan label. It means a government established by the people, for the people, and of the people, a sovereign republic that vests real rights, real power, and real control in its citizens, not in crown, parliament, or unelected bureaucrats. And yes, my fellow Canadians, this same revolutionary fire can blaze even more beautifully for us when we channel it into a proud, distinctly Canadian constitutional monarchical republic. Let me speak plainly and from the heart, so that even someone who has never read a page of political science or history can feel this truth in their chest. Imagine this future with me. We keep our king or queen, not as distant rulers, but as the warm, ceremonial heartbeat of our shared heritage. They remain on our coins, in our parliament buildings, at our national ceremonies, a living symbol of continuity, of maple leaf resilience, of the stories our grandparents told us, of the dignity and quiet strength that make us Canadian. We do not tear down our past. We honor it. We cherish the traditions, the pageantry, the sense of belonging that so many of us secretly love. But here's where we stop being polite to our own oppression. We forever strip every shred of real governing power from the crown and any unelected advisors who hide behind it. We write crystal clear, unbreakable words into our Constitution. Words so strong no future prime minister, no activist judge, no globalist bureaucrat can twist them. That declare with thunderous Canadian pride, the people alone are sovereign. Our rights are not polite privileges granted by government or tradition. They are birthrights: life, liberty, property, free speech, self-defense, and the sacred duty to resist tyranny. No parliament, no crown influence, no reasonable limits can ever again nibble them away. This is not rejecting Canada. This is finally loving Canada enough to make her worthy of her own people. For too long, we have let that soft, whispering voice inside us win. The voice trained by classrooms, by crown anthems, by decades of be nice, don't make a scene. That voice has chastised us into folding when our children's futures were on the line. It has shamed us for wanting to stand tall. It has convinced us that real strength is somehow un-Canadian. My friends, that voice has been lying to us for generations, and it is time we call it what it is. A chain disguised as courtesy. A cage wrapped in politeness. We are better than this timid version of ourselves. We are descendants of explorers, builders, and tough, independent souls who tamed a wild land. We carry that same blood. It is time to stop apologizing for wanting freedom and start demanding it like the sovereign people we were born to be. Look at what the French did in 1789. They rose with fury against absolute monarchy and declared the rights of man. Look at what the Americans did in 1776. They kept what was noble from their British roots, but refused to remain subjects. They chose citizens. We can do both. We can keep the beautiful soul of our heritage and marry it to the unapologetic fire of true self-government. A constitutional monarchical republic gives us the best of both worlds, the warmth and stability of tradition, plus the iron spine of real sovereignty. No more frozen bank accounts without due process. No more emergencies acts turned into weapons against working families. No more watching our rights erode while we whisper sorry. Instead, a Canada where every citizen knows their rights are theirs to keep and their government fears the people, not the other way around. That is the fire we speak of. The unyielding Republican spirit that says rights are not gifts from kings or parliaments. They are birthrights to be seized, defended, and spread by any means necessary. That same fire forged nations that refused to kneel. And that same fire, shaped into a bold Canadian constitutional monarchical republic, can ignite the North today. This isn't about hating Canada. This is about diagnosing the cage so we can finally break it with pride, with love, and with unstoppable Canadian resolve. The North doesn't need more polite protests. It doesn't need more petitions or reasonable dialogue. It needs a psychological jailbreak, a cultural reclamation that says individual rights are worth defending with the same unapologetic resolve our Republican forebears embodied. It needs to retire the crown worship, reject the reflexive anti-Americanism, dismantle the Marxist never resist taboo, and teach its children that sometimes a free people must stand unapologetically tall, even if it means getting their hands dirty, some getting their asses kicked, perhaps some even sacrificing their lives. And let us never forget this hard truth of history. The blood and tears of both tyrants and patriots serve to water the tree of liberty. Freedom has never been free. It has always demanded sacrifice, courage, and the willingness to pay the price that timid souls refuse to face. The convoy proved the numbers can be there. The spirit can be there. What's missing is the unconditioned will to match the moment, and the institutional vehicle to make that will permanent. That vehicle is taking shape right now. A bold new force, the new Republican Party of Canada, stands ready as the practical instrument for real change. Leaders of courage like Eva Chipiuk, Tamara Litch, and Andy Lee could and should step forward as central organizers and key voices within it. They carry the moral authority of the convoy, the legal clarity of constitutional battles fought, and the unfiltered passion the moment demands. By fully organizing under this banner, one referendum away from entrenching unalienable rights, accountability, and citizen power, they can transform raw frustration into enduring structural victory. Canada. It's time to unshackle the mind. The American and French Republican founding fire is calling. History is watching. The cage is mental. The key has always been in your own hands. So reach for it. Turn the lock, break it, and let the North finally breathe free. Thank you for listening. Now let's get to work. And to every one of you watching tonight, go check out the platform of the new Republican Party of Canada. That platform contains each and every method and viable solution to fix all of Canada's problems. The link is right there in the video description. Go read it, share it, and get involved. Respectfully and sincerely, from the deepest reaches of my heart and soul, thanks for being here and listening tonight. Bonsoir, ses soir. Good evening and good night, Amy Suzanne, Directress and CEO for VNA Voices of North America, WDBG Metro Windsor, Detroit Broadcast Group, and member of the Independent Press Gallery of Canada.
Well, as I promised, I'm back after you've really heard, understood, grasped, and retained that powerful educational message from Amy. And here I am. All right, folks, buckle up. Before we roll this latest piece of border theater from Fox 2 Detroit, let's call out the clowns in the ring. First up, Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens. This guy just went full meltdown on live TV, dismissing legitimate U.S. concerns about trade imbalances, border security, and fentanyl as nonsense, a bag full of lies, and a perpetual stream of lies from the White House. He claims the USMCA is the best trade deal ever, Trump's own words from the first term, sure, while insisting Canada has fulfilled its end and that the U.S. is weaponizing the Gordie Howe Bridge. Keep it closed rather than accept a bad deal? That's bold talk from the mayor of a city whose economy leans hard on U.S. access. Canada paid for the bridge, true, but this is joint infrastructure between sovereign neighbors, not a Canadian gift with no strings attached. Trump's administration is using legitimate leverage in ongoing USMCA talks and broader disputes. Pretending every U.S. grievance is fabricated fantasy isn't standing up for Canada. It's diplomatic gaslighting by Carney's bought and paid for political propaganda theater actors over at the CBC again. Name the BS narratives, Mayor. All lies on fentanyl and crossings. U.S. officials are highlighting northern border vulnerabilities right alongside the massive southern ones. Canada has ramped up efforts with a $1 billion border plan, a fentanyl czar, and increased seizures, but downplaying precursor chemicals, production ties, and any remaining flow isn't zero, especially not when Trump is renegotiating to secure both borders for American communities devastated by the opioid crisis. Dismissing it wholesale as fantasy ignores the data on enforcement gaps and the clear leverage play. Trade fairy tale? The USMCA is up for review right now. Trade deficits, dairy access, auto rules, energy, manufacturing shifts, and fairness aren't imaginary. Canada wants the bridge open on its terms. The U.S. wants fairer reciprocity after years of imbalances. Keep it closed sounds tough until Windsor truckers, workers, and businesses start eating the lost commerce. Victim card, we paid for it. Obama permit, joint owners, yes, but presidents enforce permits and national interests change. Threatening to hold a major crossing hostage over trade isn't unique to one side. This isn't statesmanship. It's partisan posturing that hurts cross-border families and economies on both sides while the bridge sits half-built and ready. And Fox 2 Detroit, airing this unchallenged, letting Dilkens rant about lies from the White House with softball framing? Come on. This is the same outlet that's pulled this before, platforming anti-Trump Canadian officials as straight news while the U.S. pushes back on decades of uneven deals and open border fallout. Psych-op Democrat Shilling dressed up as local journalism. It fits the pattern. Amplify the Trump bad Canada innocent line. Skip the tough questions on compliance, deficits, or why Canada suddenly needs to wait for a good deal after building the thing. Viewers deserve the full context, not one mayor's spin. The Gordie Howe Bridge should open when both sides are satisfied, not when one side demands capitulation. America is not the villain for wanting respect and fairness after subsidizing security and markets for years. Now here's the clip so you can see the performance for yourself.
All right, and the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know that this is becoming like a bit of an old bit, unfortunately, but it sounds like there's more comments that were made by the White House and U.S. administration and pointing to the long-standing unfair trade practices when asked about the Gordie Howe Bridge opening. And of course, we haven't heard a date yet for when the bridge is going to open here. What do you make of some of those comments about the unfairness that I guess has happened with the Gordie Howe International Bridge in, that's the opinion, I guess, of U.S. administration?
Yeah, I mean, we know it's all nonsense, right? We know that this is just not true. We know that we have a trade deal that the president himself called the best trade deal ever when he renegotiated it during his first term, that being CUSMA, USMCA. And we also see the perpetual stream of lies coming from the White House, whether it's, mass groups of people crossing illegally into the United States, whether it's all the fentanyl from Canada going into the United States, all the stuff that he started off with when he first was reelected. We just know it's a bag full of lies, but we have to deal with it. And so this is who the United States citizens have elected to be their president. We have to deal with him for the next 2.5 years. And so it is disheartening because, as you know, Meg, we paid for this. Canada paid for this. It was an agreement with the state of Michigan. We're joint owners. We got the presidential permit from President Obama at the time. And so the U.S. agreed to this as well. We've fulfilled our end of the bargain. And now to weaponize this and to hold this bridge hostage is just a crying shame. But you know what? If the bridge, I'm still taking squares. I'm still selling squares because everyone's got a date in their mind when this is going to open. I have no idea when this bridge will open. But if the United States is trying to force Canada into accepting a bad deal to open this bridge, I would say keep it closed because we haven't ever had the second bridge. Wait until we get a good deal. Don't go on bended knee. We paid for the whole thing and say, well, we desperately need to have this open. Of course, we all want it open. Everyone in this city has seen it. You've been part of the process for 25 years, seeing it built. All the trials and tribulations. We've seen it come up out of the ground. We've seen it join in the middle. We know the excitement. We're all excited to ride our bike or drive across it. But if it means our country has to take a bad deal to satisfy the president of the United States, I would wait until there's a time when there's a good deal because we do have lots of leverage in this country. And the longer he stays in Iran, the more important Canada's oil becomes.
And that, folks, is exactly why you can't trust the usual suspects. CBC, they're no more than stenographers and shills for the Liberal Party of Canada, straight up regurgitating Mark Carney and the libtard party's talking points as gospel. Bits of truth mixed with heavy doses of skew, spin, and outright bending to fit their globalist agenda. That's not journalism. That's propaganda theater with a maple leaf slapped on it. And right now they're doing it on overdrive with this so-called mouse virus panic. They and the rest of the Canadian state media have been hammering 24/7 fear porn on Hantavirus, pumping out story after story about monitoring cruise ship evacuations, spring cleaning warnings, and stay away from rodents. Their liberal masters would love nothing more than another crisis, another pandemic scare, fresh mandates and lockdowns to distract Canadians from the absolute mess they've made of the country. Right here at home, Fox 2 Detroit is no better. Unlike Fox National, this local crew constantly paints Trump as the villain and the Dems as saints. They refuse to touch the real bombshell stories their own greatest reporter, Charlie LeDuff, has been breaking for years. Instead, they repeatedly paint Charlie as the bad guy, the same way they smear anyone not fully aligned with the Gretchen Whitmer, Mike Duggan, Dana Nessel, and Jocelyn Benson machine. Let's give Charlie his due shine. This man has exposed Whitmer's deadly nursing home scandal, Duggan's mass poisoning of Detroit with contaminated dirt and backroom deals, Nessel's obstruction of justice and killing of the Flint water RICO case, Benson's election shenanigans and evidence destruction ties, and the whole web of cronyism protecting the Michigan Democrat elite. While the rest of the press corps plays lapdog, Charlie's out there with the no BS news hour dropping truth bombs they don't want you to hear. Meanwhile, Fox 2 keeps running interference, softball interviews, selective coverage, and shill stories that prop up the local power structure. Roop Raj and Karen Drew lead the pack with their polished, agenda-driven framing, while the rest of the crew falls in line. The one bright spot? Their weather girl Stephanie Meade, hands down the most talented, sharpest, and best performer on the entire Fox 2 team. At least somebody there knows how to deliver straight facts with professionalism. Speaking of that CBC fear machine running full throttle, here's a perfect 2 to 3 minute example of the exact panic-pushing nonsense they're flooding the airwaves with right now on this Hantavirus mouse virus story. Listen to how they spin it. Amy, let's roll the short CBC Hantavirus clip for us now.
And we begin with breaking news. A Canadian has tested positive for the Andean strain of the hantavirus. That update came from British Columbia's top doctor. Bonnie Henry says one of the 4 Canadians who had been on board that cruise ship at the center of the outbreak has received a presumptive positive diagnosis.
Late last evening, the BC CDC Public Health Lab reported that the test on the individual who had these mild symptoms was positive for the Andes strain of hantavirus.
Dr. Henry says the patient started to develop mild symptoms, including fever and headache. The individual was then taken to hospital in Victoria and assessed and tested there. CBC's Chien Desjardins is following the developments for us and joins me now in studio. So Chien, we just got this breaking news last hour from Dr. Henry. What more are we learning about this case?
So this is what we know so far. We know this was an individual from the Yukon in their 70s. They started developing symptoms on Thursday. They were tested, and as you mentioned, those tests did come back positive. So they are getting secondary tests done just to double confirm what has come back so far. But what this means is this individual from the Yukon in their 70s is currently being monitored in hospital. So is another individual that was isolating with them, also in hospital. A third individual also being monitored in hospital. And then the 4th Canadian is still isolating at home. But I just want to mention only one of the 4 Canadians so far has received any positive test for the virus.
Let's talk about what else we heard from Dr. Henry, because she says she's confident there's no further risk to the public in terms of their health, that it will not spread. What did she have to say on that front?
Yeah, so if we rewind a little bit to remember how we got here, right? If we look back, so this was a ship that was in Spain. Last week, they sent a chartered plane to pick up the 4 Canadians that were still on board. Now, these Canadians, when they boarded the plane back to Canada, they showed no symptoms at that time. This was all done with strict health protocols in place. They landed first in Quebec, then they boarded another plane that landed in British Columbia. Once they got to British Columbia, they were assessed again, showing no symptoms at that time, and then they went into isolation. So that was a minimum 21-day isolation, again, with strict health protocols. So let's take a listen to what they had to say.
I want to reassure everybody in BC that for most of us, the situation has not changed. We have we've had infection control precautions in place from the moment these people arrived in British Columbia, and I'm confident there's no additional risk to anybody else outside of the people who've been caring for these individuals.
So Dr. Henry really stressing that obviously this is not the situation they were hoping for. It is unfortunate, but this is what they were preparing for. And again, really kind of narrowing in on the fact that this is a lot different from COVID-19, what happened during then. I think this raises a lot of alarm bells. So they've said that this is different from COVID-19, and this hantavirus is not something that they see having pandemic potential.
Okay, thanks for the update. Chien Desjardins in studio. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's rip the mask off the CBC, that grotesque taxpayer-funded propaganda beast that long ago stopped being the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and became the cover for the Liberals' broadcasting company, a parasitic echo chamber sucking billions from your wallet to protect the very politicians destroying this country. For weeks, they've been mainlining pure fear into the veins of the nation. Hantavirus hysteria on cruise ships, Canadian passengers, endless what you need to know segments, trembling doctor interviews, spring cleaning panic porn, radio shows, timelines, the full arsenal of manufactured terror. And when that wasn't suffocating the conversation enough, they slammed the dial straight into Ebola, flight diversions, Canadians in hazmat scares, WHO panic buttons, scale and speed hysteria, Congolese nightmares shoved into every Canadian living room, report after report, video after video, radio hit after radio hit, bam, 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 like clockwork. Real outbreaks deserve honest reporting. This This is something else entirely. This is calculated industrial-grade narrative management. This is state media acting as the Praetorian Guard for a failing regime, keeping the plebs terrified of exotic viruses so they don't notice the homegrown catastrophe unfolding on their streets. And let's call it exactly what it is at the root, a filthy psych operation. The legacy media in this country, marching in lockstep with their Ottawa puppet masters, are drooling at the prospect of the next pandemic. They tasted absolute power during the last one. Emergency edicts, total control of the airwaves, terrified citizens too scared to push back against the incompetence. Never let a good crisis go to waste isn't some cynical slogan to them. It's gospel. It's their business model. While you're choosing between groceries and rent, while you're freezing in the dark, they're busy engineering the next health crisis to ram through more control, more spending, more censorship, and another glorious round of dictatorial emergency rule that shields their political gods from accountability. Because the record is damning, under Justin Trudeau, and now under his polished suit and tie replacement, Mark Carney, the same wrecking crew that turned Canada from a respected nation into the world's laughingstock and a cautionary tale for Western civilization, they have obliterated housing, a whole generation priced out forever, tent cities sprouting like mushrooms while they imported over 1 million people a year and built damn near zero new homes or hospital beds, stagnant wages, collapsed productivity, a cost of living explosion that has turned the Canadian dream into a bitter joke. Deficits piled sky high like toxic waste. Crime surging in once safe cities. Trust in every institution flushed straight down the toilet. The CBC doesn't investigate any of this with the same frothing intensity. They don't chase the economic arson. They don't expose how compassionate mass immigration without infrastructure was a deliberate wrecking ball. They don't tell you your obscene grocery bill is a political choice. They don't admit that years of virtue signaling, money printing, and incompetence have left Canada fragile, broke, and broken. No, instead they give you fear, fear, and more fear. Hantavirus yesterday, Ebola today. Tomorrow it'll be bird flu, monkeypox, or some fresh horror they can hype into existence. Anything to keep your eyes off the smoking ruins of the country they helped mismanage into the ground. This isn't a public broadcaster anymore. This is the Ministry of Panic. This is sedation disguised as journalism. Your tax dollars at work scaring you into compliance so you don't see the slow motion collapse of everything you work for. Now here's a couple of news clips I've pulled. I'm going to play them for you right now. As you watch them, remember everything I just laid out. Watch the breathless tone, the selective hysteria, the Canadian angle padding. You'll see the pattern crystal clear. After you get that shock education, we'll move into my interview with Jeff Everly. Enough is enough. Canadians aren't stupid. We see the house burning down while the state broadcaster shrieks about viruses on the other side of the planet. The fear factory is losing its grip. People are waking up to the real national emergency. 10 brutal years of liberal destruction masquerading as progress, shielded by a smug, obedient media class that abandoned journalism long ago. CBC, your days of gaslighting the nation are numbered. The Canadian public is done being played. We're looking straight past your panic porn, and we're fixing our eyes on the people actually responsible. And we're not buying your bullshit anymore.
So, Dr. Bogosh, I don't think we often hear about hantavirus. Can you walk us through effectively what it is? And crucially, how does it get so deadly so quickly?
This is a viral infection. Fortunately, it's very rare. People can acquire this infection by accidentally inhaling viral particles that are in dried mouse feces or urine. So you think, how does that happen? But, if you're sweeping out an attic or a shed or a barn, you can unintentionally aerosolize that and breathe it in. It's got about a 1 week to sometimes over a 4-week incubation period. And this is one of those viruses that can cause a very, very severe illness, particularly a respiratory illness. And people can get extraordinarily sick, require hospitalization and oxygenation and ventilation support in a hospital and usually in an ICU. There's no dedicated antiviral that we use to treat this particular type of hantavirus. It's supportive care in a hospital. And sadly, it's got a pretty high mortality rate, upwards of 20% sometimes.
So you talked about that lengthy incubation period, which is a curious thing to read about. But as I was reading about it and listening to the stories, it made me wonder, is there any way to know that you have it before it gets really serious? Because it sounds a little bit like having a bad cold or the flu.
The first few days of symptoms are pretty non-specific and vague, and there would be no real way to know you had it. The key thing when we think about it in a hospital environment is if someone has an obvious epidemiologic exposure, if there was a history of, cleaning up mouse droppings or sweeping out an old shed, coupled with a compatible syndrome. And that's usually when a clinician would think about it and order the appropriate tests. But, fortunately, it's rare throughout the world, including in Canada. Canada only has about 3 to 5 cases per year. Most of these cases are in Western Canada in the prairie provinces.
Okay, so on the one hand, I hear what you're saying about it being rare, but we're talking about 3 people on the same cruise who are suspected of contracting it, at least.
Yeah, that's interesting because we've never heard about this on a cruise before. I think it's still fair to say that we need to wait for this investigation to be conducted. We don't have all the information. And given the lengthy incubation period of this, it's certainly plausible that people could have acquired the infection on the mainland, perhaps in Argentina, before getting symptoms while on the cruise. Having said that, we don't know enough about it, and they might have been exposed on the boat itself.
I think one of the things that's happening as people hear about this cruise is they also hear that it cannot dock. For whatever reason is yet unclear. So I think you're imagining what is going on that cruise. What kind of additional risk, maybe, are people being put in because they can't sort of escape that environment?
I think people might have memories of the Diamond Princess cruise off the coast of Japan where COVID was ripping through that. Listen, if this truly is hantavirus, we know it is very inefficiently transmitted from person to person. There are case reports of it being transmitted from person to person, but that's the vast minority of cases. Most people are infected through an environmental exposure. So if it indeed is a hantavirus infection, it would be unusual for this to spread broadly. This poses more of an individual risk, not so much a public health risk.
Okay, well, I guess we just have to wait to see if those numbers change. Dr. Isaac Bogosh, thank you.
My pleasure.
Ebola is one of the deadliest diseases on the planet. Not because it's the most contagious, and not because it kills the most people. It's neither of those two things. But if you get infected with this particular strain of Ebola, there's no cure, no vaccine, and your odds of dying are quite high. Right now, the Democratic Republic of Congo is grappling with an outbreak. More than 600 suspected cases, more than 100 suspected deaths. These numbers will keep going up, and the virus has spread to neighboring Uganda.
Early on Sunday, I declared a public health emergency of international concern over an epidemic of Ebola disease in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda.
The biggest question mark right now stems from the fact that the virus was spreading for possibly weeks before anyone even realized it was Ebola.
The challenge here is that this outbreak was identified quite late.
Meaning, if one person got sick, infecting a dozen others before dying, and those dozen people went on to infect a dozen others each, and no one realizes this is happening, that's how epidemics start.
The late detection and quick spread of the virus are alarming health experts.
There's been weeks of the virus spreading, and the true size of the outbreak is unknown.
So let's talk about the potential for spread. Right now, we know one American doctor was infected in a healthcare setting in the DRC. This person and 6 high-risk contacts were medically evacuated to Germany, placed in a special isolation ward. What is unknown is whether Ebola could possibly have already arrived in North America. An Ontario resident is being tested after recent travel to East Africa. Out of an abundance of caution is the language being used. And in another case, US authorities are questioning whether a Congolese passenger on a flight from Paris to Detroit might have been exposed. That passenger had also recently been to East Africa. Once authorities realized the passenger had somehow been allowed to board the flight, it was diverted to Montreal. Now, this passenger was asymptomatic. No vomiting, no diarrhea, no bleeding. That's important because that's what Ebola patients typically look like when they're most infectious, if this was an Ebola patient at all. So from Montreal, the plane full of people continued on to Detroit, while the Congolese passenger flew back to Paris. The World Health Organization does not currently believe this outbreak to be a global threat.
The situation is a public health emergency of international concern, but is not a pandemic emergency.
But they also freely admit the number of cases, of deaths, will certainly rise. And I can show you why.
We have now significant uncertainty about the numbers of infection and how far the virus has spread. I don't think that we have the patient zero for now.
The first known case of this Ebola outbreak dates back to April 24th. A woman reported symptoms including fever, hemorrhaging, vomiting, and intense malaise. According to the Congolese health minister, she died here in Bunia. That's a capital city of one of DRC's easternmost provinces. Then her body was repatriated here to Mongwalu. That's a gold mining town. Lots of work, lots of people, highly mobile across borders. Now, around this point, there are two things happening, both incredibly unhelpful. In Bunia, another person gets sick on April 26th, 2 days after the first woman died. According to Africa CDC, samples were sent to Kinshasa, the country's capital. I should point out, it's well over 1,000 kilometers away, in a country known for its poor infrastructure. But they were wondering, is this Ebola? Especially after the very first tests in Bunia focused solely on the more common Zaire strain of the disease. And those results had come back negative, not Zaire strain. This would have been reassuring. Meanwhile, hours away in Mongwalu, there's a problem with the original woman's coffin.
The body was put in a coffin. Then the family decided that the coffin was not worth the person, and therefore what they did, they changed the coffin, and then there was the funerals, and it's from where it started.
This series of moments, the woman's death, her repatriation to Mongwalu, the handling of her body, her funeral, it's all believed to form a core piece of how this disease spread undetected. Because just imagine what all of that looks like. The washing and dressing of a body, sometimes by family members, at the service itself, kissing or touching the face, embracing the deceased, close, intimate contact, while the virus is still highly contagious.
Even a drop of it can be quite contaminating to another individual. It's fairly easy to come into contact with as part of either routine care or being a part of a family member or in a burial practice.
It wasn't until 11 days after this woman's death, the World Health Organization would first learn around 50 people had now died in Mongwalu. And the fact that 4 of them were health workers is important because Ebola is known as a disease of compassion, in that it doesn't spread by wafting from stranger to stranger through the air. It spreads through close contact. And when a patient is incredibly sick,
they're vomiting, they're having significant diarrhea, they may be bleeding.
In these cases, Ebola spreads through close care. It is a disease that is, in a way, most dangerous to doctors and nurses. The woman who died on April 24th, the first known case, she was a nurse, which also might be one reason experts don't think she's patient zero. She was caring for the sick, possibly treating people from more remote areas where Ebola more often originates, where there's more interaction with the wild animals who are the natural hosts of the virus, where people get sick, where surveillance systems may be weak, where transmission can continue quietly for weeks before anyone realizes what's happening. You might be wondering at this point, for a country that understands and has faced this disease many times in the past, why didn't they catch it sooner? And for that matter, why did initial lab tests come back negative for Ebola, if this is Ebola? Further testing has since confirmed this was not Zaire Ebola. It's Bundibugyo Ebola. That's a much rarer strain that Zaire testing does not catch. Zaire vaccines don't work. Zaire drugs don't help.
So we've seen only about, I believe, 3 outbreaks of this in history, which is challenging given that, a lot of the work, the research, and the tens of thousands of patients' experience has been dedicated towards Zaire.
There aren't that many laboratories in the DRC that can even test for this rare strain of Ebola.
When you don't see a lot of those cases, you're not going to test for something that you're not seeing all the time. You're going to test for what it is you do expect to see.
So far as I can tell, they have the means all the way in the west, in Kinshasa. And while there are closer labs, like in Goma, for example, this is a part of the country that is also fractured by war, contested and controlled by the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, which, at minimum, I point out to explain why experts point out again and again the state presence where the outbreak has hit hardest is incredibly weak, and that people from Mongwalu have been allowed to move about freely when they should be restricted to prevent the spread of the virus. There are more than 100 militias active across just a small handful of eastern provinces. Sometimes they are violent against aid groups, which has forced many of them to leave. Logistics are difficult, and making matters worse, the world's foremost helper when it comes to urgent medical crises like these is nowhere near as helpful as it once was.
The United States has only very belatedly got involved, has mobilized only a really comparatively tiny amount of funding.
Countries like the DRC rely on countries like the United States to help it fulfill very basic needs.
They're not making anything like the funding or material support commitment that historically you've seen the US make.
And when it comes to people, expertise, boots on the ground, just think about those American organizations we're used to seeing mobilized in previous outbreaks. In 2018, during Trump's first term, in 2014, under Obama. But today, Trump administration cuts mean USAID no longer exists. The CDC's Global Health Center was slashed. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs. One of Trump's first acts in office was to withdraw the United States from the World Health Organization.
On every previous Ebola outbreak, on every other big health crisis like this, historically, the United States has been the leader. They have convened an immediate sort of leadership task force that directed all of the people who were going to intervene. They had the surveillance network. Usually it was the United States, frankly, that picked up the first signs of an outbreak like this. And the United States has supply chain expertise like nobody else in the world. And historically, they have stood that up within days. The head of the Africa CDC's emergency response group said to me yesterday, the Americans have shown themselves to be an unreliable partner, and people now make their plans accordingly.
What this all adds up to is a truly dangerous situation on the ground in Africa, but also one that is frustratingly difficult to put in context when you live far, far away. Except, it's never really that far away.
WHO assesses the risk of the epidemic as the high at the national and regional levels and low at the global level.
That being said, this virus has gone over at least one border and potentially many more. It is an unstable zone. As cases amplify, they may get closer to international borders. I wouldn't say that the risk is high to cause a global epidemic, but at the same time, there are always these one-off circumstances that could lead to someone showing up in another country.
All right, folks, earlier in the show, I promised you I'd bring you something real, raw, unfiltered voices from the trenches, not the scripted corporate nonsense. We saved this one, my talk with Jeff Eve Lee, for the final stretch of the broadcast because it's special. I went into this interview doing it full LeDuff style. Old school Metro Windsor Detroit humor, busting balls raw and no filter. But Jeff Evely turned out to be a solid, awesome kind of guy who handled it like a pro. He just told it exactly how it is. Straight talk, no spin, no bullshit. You're about to see a one-of-a-kind random sidewalk interview I did with Jeff Evely at a strong and free Canadian conservative event. Jeff is an ex-Army veteran and convoy fighter who they tried to ban from walking in the woods out east because his sneakers were somehow considered a fire hazard. I kicked things off by mentioning my own background as a U.S. Navy warrant officer in naval gunnery, trying to build some common ground between two old vets who've seen some shit. From there, the conversation goes all over the map in the best way possible. We talk about the absurd lockdowns and ridiculous rules regular Canadians were hit with during the protests. Jeff gets into me telling him about my tiny apprentice camera girl, Suzanne, and I getting kicked out of the National Press Gallery. The time they told me, we don't want no Americans in here, and the heavy lockdown security around Parliament where you can't even get near the MPs unless you're on an approved list. We go deep on Andy Lee's history of covering Chinese interference in Canada, how bad it really is, and we don't hold back on Mark Carney, his financial connections through Brookfield, the push with foreign companies instead of Canadian ones, and calling it exactly what it looks like, treason and realignment toward China. Jeff opens up about his own court battles, how he won charter challenges, one in the public interest, and one through the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. He talks with me about his military service and my serious disability caused by an artillery shell explosion I survived back in 1983 while serving in Beirut, Lebanon, and the reality of veterans trying to help the next generation. I asked him, did he ever watch North America's most irreverent reporter's work? That madman of a scribe, my buddy Charlie LeDuff. Jeff, like many Canadians, seemed to never have heard about Charlie, and that's why I brought that into the conversation, as more Canadians need to tune into, watch and listen to Charlie. So if you're listening, Charlie, take note of all that there. We also cover and talk about why Canada desperately needs stronger individual rights. The ability to say no to government overreach, term limits, and actual protections for people. So provinces like Alberta don't feel they have no choice but to separate. There's also fun stuff about networking at the event, wild stories involving David and the turkey with the bubble bus, Andy, James Thompson, and signs of the times Howard Kwan, who's now running the new Republican Party on a pro tem basis. This is exactly the kind of honest, behind-the-scenes talk you never see on CBC or the mainstream media. Real frustrations from people who lived through the convoy, the protests, the court fights, and the growing sense that the system is rigged against regular Canadians. Quick note on the footage. This clip was shot by Signs of the Times Howard Kwan, who didn't know how to work the complicated pro video camera that our Chad usually runs. Chad disappeared on us for this one too. It's a bit fuzzy in spots and not perfect, but it's good enough that you can clearly see and hear everything that matters. So please bear with us on the technical side. This random, unscripted conversation is well worth the watch and listen. No scripts, no handlers. Just two guys shooting straight from the heart. Here it is.
One. Okay, this is VinnyD. I'm Charlie LeDuff's sidekick. I'm kind of like on assignment for him from NBN now, covering this strong and free Canadian conservative event. And I just run into, look who I just run into, Jeff Evely, the guy they stopped from going in the woods over there out east on the East Coast. They thought you'd start some fight in the place or something because you smoke a vape.
Actually, I think it was just my sneakers. Walking was banned, so apparently my sneakers are some kind of a fire hazard.
Yeah, I can see my shoes because I have cleats and it might start a fire. But you, I noticed you were speaking. You're expat too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so am I, American Navy.
Okay, right on. Yeah,
I was a warrant officer in the American Navy.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
my skills. Nobody uses 16-inch battleship shells no more, so they wouldn't need. I went in here to apply on Bank Street one day at they moved the forces recruit. I said, "You guys need some old farts." that know how to teach you young guys how to use battleship guns. That guy's just laughing. Yeah. But I went in there with my Christmas tree and everything. Okay, very nice. So you enjoying yourself here at this place?
Yeah, it's great. The networking is kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, that's.
I take in a few speeches and stuff like that.
I just talked to Harrison Faulkner and told him what happened to me at the National Press Gallery when I came home. They kicked open the door, switched around, the camera flying. And then the one guy from Canadian Press just, we don't want no Americans in here. And when Charlie, you know who Charlie LeDuff is?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, he used to have a show on Fox called The Americans where he had cowboy boots, Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
You never.
Okay, sorry.
And then when the planes hit the World Trade Center, got a Pulitzer for writing about that. Oh yeah. Look him up when you go. He's very much into freedom and rights and all that. Anyway, so they promised Charlie he's going to be a Pulitzer work, and they promised him that they'd give him a press pass. So I inquired about that. They didn't like him catching the national director half naked in his office. And because we found out about that later. And even if you go up there and say, "Hey, I'm Jeff Eagley, I want to find out what's going on here," they throw you out that soon. Carney, have you tried to walk on Parliament since you've been here in Ottawa?
Well, yeah, we had a protest there on Tuesday.
But you couldn't go nowhere near where the MPs were in Westbrook. Did you try and access that part?
Yeah, we did a press conference.
Oh, you were invited then?
Yeah.
If you weren't invited and you tried to go up there, you'd be in a world of shit.
Yeah. We had to, submit all our names ahead of time and show ID and go through the security check and stuff like that. It's locked down pretty tight.
Now, how you were invited here or you applied because you just want to network and see?
Here, I just purchased a ticket. Came out to, take in a few presentations and, catch up with a lot of people I know and meet some new friends.
You don't know, David didn't say whether he's coming or not to this event this year?
David.
Free, my buddy. My sawed-off guy, my little buddy. During the convoy and during Rolling Thunder, and he sees me with an old school Panasonic. He said, "What are you doing, Vinny?" He pointed, he thought it was funny. I said, "David, this thing takes better film than the cell phone."
Yeah. Analog.
Yeah. He wouldn't believe me. He says, "There's CBC." And David's the one that caught the trickery with the bubble bus there. You know how they did that. And they had the truck come up there. Were you here from Rolling Thunder?
Yeah.
Our Andy was who was the guy with the march?
James Top.
Yeah, James Top.
Oh, yeah.
Andy's a character. You know Andy Lee?
No, I've never met her in person.
So you need to meet her. She's a sweetheart. She's one of the best people you ever want to meet. She's kind of vocal though.
Oh yeah, she's pretty vocal.
By telling what's happening here with Chinese interference. Did you see any Chinese state media in there spying?
I can't say that I did, no. Important work that she's doing too. Pretty hawkish on the.
Her father used to work for Nortel, and when the Chinese went in and made Nortel crash, Andy, that ruined her life. That's why she did it. She's actually from Ottawa. She's not from Alberta. Yeah, she moved out. She was born right here in Gracie Hospital.
Okay. Yeah.
Andy's our oldest member of our press guild.
Yeah, I think Nortel is just Huawei now. Basically stole it from us and they're trying to sell it back so they can buy us.
What do you think about this hand law coming in like Carney's having all these foreign companies instead of developing Canadian companies?
It's treason. I think that's what he's here to do, is realign us with China, and all the indicators are there. He's financially aligned with China, especially through Brookfield.
It's now treason only happens in time of war. You're a soldier, you know that. You
can commit treason in between periods of war, yeah.
Yeah, it must be war or you have a declared enemy, you know what I mean? And Carney thinks China's their friend, just like Trudeau did. Shit, they're training troops. I was in Toronto watching the Chinese pilots run fighter planes over the city. That's crazy, man. Teaching them our winter tactics and everything.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, how many people have you spoken to in here?
I don't know, several dozen. Yeah.
And your case is over now. I haven't been keeping up on you. I don't want to admit that, but
that's okay. We won the charter applications. So there was one in the public interest. We submitted by foundation. and the one submitted in my private interest by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom.
Is your dog an actual military dog?
No.
Did they try to give him a ticket for going in there?
I mean, they should have.
You know, they consider police dogs and military dogs people. That's why I'm asking that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not
No,
people,
they
but
didn't.
entities, you know, like a ticketable entities they consider. Like if a police dog is killed in the line of action by a perpetrator, they can charge the perpetrator with killing a police dog the same as a police officer. So
with murder?
Yeah, with murder.
Okay.
Well, Canadian law mirrors American law. It's just a procedure like what's his name, Pat King, trying to hold his own trial. Evil will tell you never want to be your own lawyer. Always, if you represent yourself during the trial and talk, you want a second share. Don't ever represent yourself if you can help. You know.
Yeah.
You didn't represent yourself. You had help, right?
Yeah, JCCF helped me out.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. That's why That's why I'm trying to talk to Kristen and Van Dyne. So you're not.
Oh, she's Canadian Constitution Baptist.
Yeah. Where's she back?
She's in there. Yeah.
Would you ask her? Could I please talk? Hear about what happened at the press gallery about the freedom of press?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah. All right, Jeff, thank you for stopping and talk to us. I know you're a very busy man. Everybody wants to talk to you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I carry on because you're a good voice out there, you know.
Thanks.
People like you. I watch all the likes you get no matter what show you're on. You've been on Going Back too, haven't you?
No. I was on Dr. Drew, Viva a few times. I was on InfoWars, James O'Keefe.
Now, Charlie, my buddy, all these Gonzalez, Sarah Gonzalez.
Okay.
They need some Canadian voices in the States to see how terrible things are. You know, we don't have any rights. I was talking to you before. What do you think about that? You think if we had the right to say no, you know, with unequal rights like the Americans and French had during the convoy, just say no, I'm going to ask my doctor first before you shove a needle up my butt? You know, you think that would be better and to vote and have term limits and everything?
Yeah. I think we
just
could.
tweak. We don't need to be exactly like the American and French, but we need to tweak a few things to give the people more rights. Because we have those rights, Alberta wouldn't need to separate.
Yeah.
You know, and boy, Tamara wouldn't have gotten in trouble. You know, we could have just told, no, I'm going to ask my doctor first before I decide, without having the government penalize you for it. Like you walking in the woods. You know, how in the hell are you going to start a fire? What they did was completely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife is from Newfoundland, you know, she's from St. John's.
Okay.
Is that where you were when that happened? Or?
No.
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia,
Yeah, same, almost the same difference. You guys paint your houses weird colors too?
Okay.
You do?
No.
It's not multicolored all over.
No. It's not like St. John's.
Yeah, that's the St. John's.
Yeah.
My regular cameraman, he's from Nova Scotia, Amherst. You know where that is?
Yeah. I got some good friends down there.
Yeah, but he's not. Are you like you're into the sea and everything? He's not into. You know, the small Nova Scotians know the sea, the blue nose and all that. You know, the wrecks there on Sable Island. Like he doesn't know a damn thing about the sea. But you know a little bit, about the sea. Even though you're a land creature army guy.
Yeah, no, not as much as a lot of them do. No, I was gone for 20 years.
Were you a combat vet?
No. I was support trained, so.
Yeah. Oh, I got blown up on my hand. It's like this. Everybody makes fun.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
I was in an explosion. I was in. You know the day, October 23rd, 1983. You know what happened that day?
What's that?
When the barracks got blew up. I wasn't in that, but I was.
Oh, okay.
I needed a cigarette in the ship. Just going around the med without a cigarette ship. So I needed a cigarette bag. So I jumped on a truck, a UN truck, and it had some French Foreign Legion and parachutists and everything, and it had some Italians on it. Yeah. And I said, I need to go to PX to get some cigarettes. I took a ride. Next thing you know, the truck blows up, and my life is ruined, you know. They go pinning medals on me and all that. You know, even France give me one. But the thing is, I only did what I had to do that day. You know, I saved guy's life. I was skinning him out of the way, man. You know, it's like, it's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, you know Howard, Science at Times Howard?
What's that?
You know Science at Times Howard?
Yeah. I know Howard, yeah.
Yeah,
And he's got,
all there out with the thing. Yeah, it's one of our.
he came out to our protest the other day with a ton of signs. I really appreciate it, Howard. It was
Yeah,
great to hear what
and
you
he
said.
actually can speak very good too when things going. He's the chairman of this new Republican Party.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I am?
Well, the pro temp. Isn't that what they call it when somebody's temporary? Pro temp?
Okay.
Yeah, he said pro temp too.
Okay.
All right, well, I
Wrap
don't
it
want to
up.
take you out too long because I know you're probably hungry, eh?
Oh, I just say, I think Daniel Smith's up though, so I wouldn't mind.
Okay, go ahead and listen.
All right.
Yeah, sorry
Thanks,
to take
guys.
all the time, but
No worries.
thanks for
My
talking.
pleasure, yeah. Appreciate it.
Let the world feel free. Let go. I do the same. The truth will shine on me. Yeah. Love me. Love me. Love me. Love me now. Love me. Love me now. Bring it on to me.
He had the most radical people in his group. He had the most radical people.
Remember, Canada, only you, through giving your support, can convince Andy, Ava, Tamara, and others Canada needs them more inside Parliament than outside, as they can all do way more from the inside than outside and to come aboard and run. Is Canada ready for a new kind of political party?
Thank you for inviting us into your home. TV50 hopes you've enjoyed our programs today, and as always, we appreciate your comments. Today's programs on WQB mechanically reproduced.
Call